Closet, a Todd Mills Mystery. Book 1. Author R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher Scribble Pub. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 24. Cindy, said Locker, beaming. What can I say? You're doing an excellent job, and an incredible one. Thank you. Still wearing her black leather jacket, having not changed at all since this morning's shoot, Cindy Wilson sat in her boss's office, a proud smile on her face. She knew it too. She was doing fabulously upon arriving here. At the station, she'd watched the entire clip that had run on Sunrise 7. Not only had her delivery been calm and professional, not only did she look wonderful on screen, but Mark's camera work had been great. It truly looked as if she'd been critical in assisting the police in their search for the body. In other words, her horror at discovering the body hadn't come across. No one had been able to discern her fright, her disgust at spotting the maimed corpse and all that blood. Just thinking about it now, the blatant knife wounds, the pants open, the ghostly white legs, made her tense all over again. No, just push it away, she told herself. You've seen plenty of bodies. And I think you're absolutely right, continued Locker. Plan B? With a broad grin, Locker said, Hang 'em. They talked about it the other day at the staff meeting, a horrendously long meeting that had focused on how to handle this explosive situation. Just how were they going to treat Todd Mills? Both officially and unofficially. How long did they want him associated with Channel 7? Dear Lord, I can't believe how he screwed every last one of us, Locker now moaned. Cindy said, Well, we just can't go down with him, can we? I mean, I like Todd, but... We all like Todd, interrupted Locker, completely aware that he was referring to his once star reporter in the past tense. I mean, he did good work here. He won those Emmys, but you're right, Cindy. And that's not the point. The point is that we can't let Channel 7 go down the tubes, just because his life is all screwed up. The station has its ratings to bear in mind. We've all got careers, and it's just not right to let one guy come in and ruin the whole thing, right? Absolutely. So what choice do we have? The death of Michael Carter was one thing. Maybe Todd really didn't do it, but this one is entirely different. No one knows what really happened down at Lake Calhoun early this morning, but rightly or wrongly, our viewers are going to see Todd Mills as a gay serial killer. We have no choice but to distance ourselves from him, and who knows, maybe he actually killed his boyfriend and now this other one too. Like I say, who knows? I was grooming Todd. He was doing wonderful things for the station. Hell, we were going to offer him an anchor position. He shook his head, ran a hand over his bald scalp. But good God, maybe he's this pent-up faggot who's gone on a killing rampage. If that's the case, we've got to find out if he hurt anyone before, volunteered Cindy. What if he has a history of violence? Exactly. And that's the story, barked Locker from behind his desk. Did we have a murderer in our midst and not even know it? Had evil crept into this building, into these rooms? We were accepting and loving of Todd. We treated him with care and dignity and respect. He was a member of our family, and hell, we made him a star. But now... Cindy sat there watching her boss, who was round-faced and bald and hyper, and she knew what Plan B meant, for they discussed it at length. Guilty until proven innocent, or save your ass TV. Of course, they had to distance themselves from Todd Mills. The station, any station, cultivated and garnered viewers as though nothing else mattered. Ratings were everything, and Channel 7 was undoubtedly the most respected station of the upper Midwest. The one people had returned to for generations. They couldn't toss it all aside for some reporter who very well might be the poisoned apple in the barrel. So, we've got to give him the OJ treatment, continued Locker. And you're the perfect person to do it. Cindy's gut nodded. Perfect because she was a woman, or perfect because she'd worked by Todd's side and she was a good reporter. We've got to look like innocents, Cindy. That's the angle I want you to come from. We can't go down with Todd. We've got to rise to the surface. And then float like angels up to heaven. And we need to get a call-in number. A special number viewers can call for recorded updates. Or maybe a couple of numbers. One for updates, another for biographical information on Todd. Maybe a third for a gay crisis line or something. Oh God, our viewers are going to eat this up. And I'll focus on how we were betrayed, said Cindy. Exactly. And how we were deceived. Perfect. It's actually a pretty good story, mused Cindy, her mind clicking along, formulating the steps she'd take. Of course it is. Here's this guy, this hunk, who's approaching the pinnacle of his career, and he's won these Emmys. Everything looks perfect from the outside, but then his life is shattered when the world finds out who the real Todd is. That's it. We're all tempted by evil, are tainted by it. And our golden boy, it turns out, is no different. Right, said Locker with a laugh. Let's get someone working on a couple of side pieces. You know, the pressures of being homosexual, not being out at work, being married and gay, that kind of thing. So I have to find out what happened to Todd when he crossed over the line into darkness. Oh, I like this. I have to focus on the bad side of him, and these days and in this liberal state, it's got to be more than his sexuality. Specifically, I have to keep murder always in the forefront. Absolutely, a killer always fascinates viewers. Locker leaned forward, a sly grin on his face, and said, but don't forget to keep sex and sexuality right up there, too. Everyone finds that interesting, particularly famous queers who buried themselves deep in the closet. You know, like Rock Hudson, Malcolm Forbes, and Calvin Klein. Patricia Ireland of Now, too. Right. People are gossipy by nature, and there's no better way to hook them than talk of who's doing what to whom. But you're right. In the South, you could get more mileage out of homosexuality, but not necessarily up here. On the other hand, AIDS has everyone afraid of homos, and a murdering fag is an entirely different beast. Cindy nodded and looked down at her long red nails. I'm going to have to do some research, see what I can dig up. Can I get some help? Obviously, there's a part of Todd that he kept hidden. Cindy, my dear, you can have anything you want. Channel 7 is at your disposal. She liked this, where it was already perfectly clear what Todd Mills and his predicament were doing for her career. When she'd first been hired at Channel 7, they treated her like this nice little girl. She was pretty. She had nice white teeth and bright blonde hair. She looked good on TV, but Todd and Channel 7 had kept her in the wings at best until suddenly, almost overnight, things had changed. Now there was respect. Seated across from Locker, she could see how he no longer viewed her as someone to be merely tolerated, nor even as a magnet to draw female viewership. Hell no. Now Locker understood she was a key player who could deliver something he needed. She liked this. She was vital. He needed her. He was married before, wasn't he? Asked Cindy. Oh, sure. Maybe we can find his ex-wife? I hear she's beautiful and way up there. Someone important. A lawyer, maybe, or a doctor. I don't know, said Locker with a wave of his hand. But that's a great idea. You should find her and see if she knows her ex was a homo. Maybe that's what caused the divorce. Hell, maybe she caught him in bed with some guy, and maybe she knows if Todd has a history of violence. When you do talk with her, see what you can learn about their sex life. Find out if they had one at all, and if he was violent with her. Or better yet, I should find her divorce lawyer. Brilliant! I should check that other station, too, the one in Central Illinois. Todd was there for 5 years, wasn't he? Something like that. Just check everywhere. Dig up as much dirt as you can. Who knows? Maybe something like this happened before. Right, replied Cindy, nodding. His father was an alcoholic, wasn't he? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that was the case. And I know for a fact that Todd saw a shrink up here. Locker paused for a moment and grinned. God, I wonder how we can find out if Todd's been on medication. And don't forget to check the gay bars. Do a lot of snooping at the gay times in particular. Maybe Todd was down there all the time. Locker paused, surprised by his own chain of thought. Good God. Maybe Todd was a regular at those anonymous sex places. Isn't there another over by the Mississippi? Shit. Maybe Todd even has AIDS. Has he been sick, a cold or anything? Lately? Christ, I wonder if we all shouldn't get blood tests. Maybe you better... I mean, you've been working side by side. I'll get someone to pull his medical files. There was a whole laundry list of things to check, thought Cindy, and it would take a team of researchers to pull together a story like this, but the challenge was irresistible. A version of the story started to appear in her mind's eye. Todd is a strapping kid who pulled himself from an abusive, dysfunctional family. Maybe he'd been beaten by his drunk father, perhaps even sexually abused, and then struggled to fame and wealth, only to be toppled by sex and murder. Everyone would want to watch that, for it was the stuff that miniseries were made of. Only this one was real, which made it all the more compelling. In fact, there was so much information, and this was such a captivating and shocking story. Who hadn't trusted Todd, either at the station or on the screen? That Cindy could easily imagine a number of segments, which meant a lot of exposure for her. She'd have to keep it personal, too. That would be the best. She'd emphasize how Todd had worked so closely, how he'd been her mentor, and how they'd become such good friends. And Cindy sensed that she should even bring in some personal elements of her own life, like how she'd been mugged and nearly raped in college, and especially the story of her cousin Sandy, who was both a lesbian and a police officer in Chicago. That would soften Cindy's coverage, keep it from seeming overtly homophobic. The last thing she wanted was something like a backlash from the gay community. "There's a whole lot of stuff spinning in this head of mine," said Cindy, unable to hide her excitement. "There's so much material, so much potential. This is going to be a great story." "I know, and it's all yours. I'm sure we can get the Nationals to pick this up, too. I'm sure they'll want a few spots. You do realize, don't you, that this is the kind of stuff that Emmys are made of?" Despite mention of such a golden carrot, Cindy maintained her trademark composure, saying, "Well, I'll get someone started on Todd's personal history and all. But I've got to stick with the story of the day, namely the murder down at Lake Calhoun. Can I do an update on the evening news?" "Absolutely. In fact, I'll make you our lead." Locker ran his hand over his smooth, bald head. "You're the perfect person for this, Cindy. There's no one better. You worked right by Todd's side. You know him better than almost anyone. So you've got to show the world how you were deceived, how all of us were deceived. This is your baby, Cindy. Go get him." Good God, she thought. For a brief moment, she couldn't move. This was unbelievable. Locker was talking to her as if he were a football coach, and she were his star player. It was too good to be true. Finally, her big story. She rose and extended her hand, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Locker. I won't let you down." "Of course you won't." She couldn't quite comprehend it. Who could have imagined she'd be given Todd Mills to crucify? Certainly not she. So what if he was innocent? This was power, big power, and she was going to use it to blast her all the way to the top. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.